Rise and shine, it's espresso time. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I am not a morning person. I'm not. But when you start your day with a powerful morning routine that inspires you, like watching one of these videos, it will change your life. So let's start your day off right together. Grab your coffee, know that I believe in you, and get ready for a shot of espresso from Marisa Peer.
I wake up every morning. Espresso keep me going. I wake up every morning.
Now, you may have heard many times about the Marshmallow Test. And the Marshmallow Test is an interesting test where they took children and put them in a room with one marshmallow. It's also been done with one cookie and one pretzel. And they said to the children, if you wait, don't eat that marshmallow, then you will have two. So they were seeing how good these children were at delaying gratification, because if you can delay gratification, you are wired for success. And they found one group, maybe a third of the kids, just shoved that marshmallow in their mouth straight away and said, oh, I couldn't wait, I needed it now. They needed instant gratification. The second group said, no, I'm going to wait. And they sat there knowing that if they waited, they got two marshmallows. The third group, well, they were interesting because they really wanted that marshmallow. They were very much a combination of group 1 and 2. They wanted it. They also wanted to wait. As they made funny faces, they turned their chair around, they tried not to look at the marshmallow, and they forced themselves to wait. And they also got the second marshmallow. So group 1, instant gratification. Group 2, naturally delayed gratification. Group 3 were kind of programmed to be group 1, but fought with themselves until they became group 2. They resisted their natural instinct to eat the marshmallow. And what they discovered as they followed those children was group 2 and 3, the ones who delayed gratification naturally or completely unnaturally, were way more successful than group 1, that when I need it and I can't wait and I got no self-control, it looks nice, it tastes nice, bam, I've eaten it and now I kind of wish I'd waited. So I'm telling you this because it does not matter if you are not naturally group 2. It only matters that you can train yourself, teach yourself, and help yourself to become group 2. Because here's the thing, when we're kids, we learn naturally to delay gratification. Our parents say, clean your room and then you can have an ice cream. Do your homework and then you can go to the park. Do your chores and then we'll go out and have cookies. We all do that naturally with children. And then we learn to stop. And you see, if you come in from work and you are naturally a gratification delay, you'll go, wow, my favorite program is on tonight and I'm going to have this wonderful dinner. But first I'm going to go through my emails, do the stuff that's important, and then my dinner and movie is my reward. And what happens is you get through the work you don't do because you're thinking of the reward. You go, this is a reward for doing that. Other people come in and go, no, I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to have a lovely dinner, and later I do my emails. And of course, later never comes because you had your reward first. And it is a classic mistake to take your reward first.
Here's an interesting question for you. How much do you prioritize excitement versus fulfillment? I don't know if you thought about this before, but excitement versus fulfillment, both lead to happiness. Excitement is the really short term, you hit some milestone, you eat that chocolate bar, you do something super exciting, and it feels great and you get that rush, but it goes away just as quickly. Just as quickly as the rush came in, the rush goes away. Maybe you feel even a little sick afterwards. Maybe you need to recover afterwards because that chocolate bar makes you a little sick, or you partied too hard for hitting your goal and now you need to recover a little bit. Often the recovery time after the excitement phase is significant, but it doesn't last. Excitement doesn't last. It's very short term. Fulfillment is long term and lasting. Fulfillment, if you're looking in a happiness context, fulfillment is serving others. Fulfillment is knowing that you had an impact. Fulfillment is that comment that somebody leaves on your video or the email that somebody sends you, or the phone call that you get saying that you had an impact on their lives. Those things you remember forever. There's comments and emails and conversations I've had that were years old that still mean something to me today. I still feel the impact of it today. Whereas I don't remember that chocolate bar that I ate 4 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with having excitement and fulfillment in your life. Both lead to happiness. But which one do you prioritize? Which one are you spending more time on? Which one are you actively, with intention, pursuing? Because this is really a game of intention. If you don't, with intention, say, I want to have more fulfillment in my life, you will default to excitement. Because we want it now. Because I think that's baked into human nature. We want it now, we want it now, we want it now, we want it now, we want it now. We're worried it's going to go away. We have a scarcity mindset. We have to take it right now. But the more that you can train yourself to actually seek out fulfillment, I think the happier you will actually be. I think the more long-term life satisfaction you will have. You will feel like you're doing something important. You will feel like you matter. You feel like this is something that is worth doing, as opposed to the sugar rush wearing off just as quickly as it came in. How do you move to fulfillment instead of excitement? How do you make that shift happen? Because I don't think many people are just automatically wired for it, but you can adjust it. Number one, I think one of the most important things you can do is have the Keystone Habit every morning that reminds you who you are. A Keystone Habit is something that you're doing regularly, that when you do that one thing, all your other habits fall into place. So for example, for me, I am currently fasting until 6 o'clock during the week. So I don't eat until 6 o'clock. And some days that's really hard. And some days that's a lot easier. The thing that actually helps me the most is this. It's a cup of coffee. Whether it's Starbucks or Tim Hortons or homemade, I just broke my coffee pot at home. So we're doing it. We're going out right now until a new coffee pot comes in. And it's not so much that coffee helps, and it does. Coffee is an appetite suppressant, so that can help. But it's more the decision. It's a decision that in the morning, I'm gonna have a cup of coffee, and that's setting me up because I am gonna fast today. And whether this lasts for a week, a month, the rest of my life, I don't know. Don't worry about having it be the thing forever. But as long as you have a goal for yourself, having a Keystone Habit to help you remember who you are, I think is critical. So what's one thing that you're trying to do that you're afraid of? Maybe it's launch your YouTube channel. Maybe it's create content. Maybe it's make videos. Maybe it's make calls. Maybe it's whatever it is inside your business that you know you need to do, but you're afraid to do, you don't want to do. You want to do it because you want to grow, so you get the fulfillment, but you don't want to do it because you're afraid of rejection, you're afraid of it not working out, you're afraid of it being imperfect. So it creates anti-excitement. Right? This is still just excitement versus fulfillment. You want fulfillment and you have to do it. You want excitement, don't do it. Which one are you going to choose to do? Well, our default is to live in excitement. So you're going to say, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. But then you never have fulfillment and you don't feel happy because you never do the work, right? Is it sounding familiar? Can you think of a task like that in your life or business that you should be working on? So the key thing becomes, what's the cornerstone habit for you that's going to help? It's why I make these videos. Because I know for a lot of you, this morning series really matters. People make the morning series a part of their daily routine. People watch my videos a part of their daily routine. That my videos are the things that help keep them on track. Not just because of the knowledge, not just because of the motivation, not just because of the wisdom that is hopefully in the videos, but every time you choose to go to YouTube and watch a video instead of the alternative, which might be to sleep in, which might be to go to YouTube and watch something stupid, which might be to just do a whole other list of things that don't serve you. Every time you choose to watch one of these videos, you're betting on yourself. You're creating the cornerstone habit, the keystone habit, to help remind yourself of who you are and the life that you want. Very often, excitement and fulfillment are doing completely opposite things. When they're aligned, it's really easy. When it's exciting and fulfilling, it's super easy. But when they're apart, what do you do? Where do you live? What's your home? And if you want to shift from excitement to fulfillment, to have a more rich level of life, starting with that keystone habit is really, 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 really important. So think about the habits that you currently have. Think about the habits that you're kind of consistent on. Which one is the one that makes you feel the best about yourself? Which one is the one that when you seem to do that one habit, everything else kind of falls into place? It may seem insignificant. This is why people say, make the bed in the morning or drink a glass of water in the morning. It's not that making a bed actually does anything or drinking a glass of water has a profound impact. I mean, you are dehydrated when you wake up in the morning. But the reason that those habits are so important is because when you do it, it's not that you made the bed and making the bed then changes your day somehow. It's that you become the person who makes the bed. And even more importantly is you become the person who set a goal and then followed through on the goal first thing in the morning. So then you're more likely to follow through on your other goals because you have the identity for today of you're the person who follows through on your goals. Where if you didn't make the bed, you set the goal to make the bed and you don't, you ever notice that day kind of falls apart? That you lose track, that you slide here, you slide there, you cheat on your diet, you don't do the activities you said you were going to do, you don't do the workout like you said, you don't make the calls like you said, you decided tomorrow I'll make the videos instead of today, and all of a sudden you've lost the whole day. Has that happened to you? You decided to just throw away the whole day. It wasn't a conscious choice. You didn't wake up and say, I'm going to throw away my day today, right? Nobody does that. It's that you woke up with great intentions, but because you missed that one thing, the standards start to fall, and all of a sudden, you're halfway through or at the end of your day and you realize you've done nothing, and you've slid everywhere. It's identity. You've taught yourself that you set goals and you don't follow through. This is a daily battle. This is a daily battle to fight for who you are, to fight for who you want to be. Are you the kind of person who chases excitement, or are you the kind of person who chases fulfillment? And there's nothing wrong with going after both, but where do you want your home to be? Do you want to be the person who's only chasing the exciting things, and then the energy wears off and you realize you don't like your life, that has no meaning, no purpose, that you don't matter? Or do you want to be chasing fulfillment, knowing that you're living a rich life that's having a massive impact on other people, which means sometimes doing things that don't bring you excitement? Change your keystone habits. Start living a more intentional life. Do an audit of where you're at right now. What percentage out of 100 you live in excitement versus fulfillment? And when you can intentionally start to make that shift, you'll start to live a much more intentional life, a much happier life, and a much more fulfilled life. Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. When you watch a video and you just get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That, Believe Nation, is not enough. But when you create a specific plan of action, I write it down of what you're gonna do, that number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of you following through. And when you commit publicly to others, like leaving a comment with your plan down below, that number jumps to 95% chance of you following through. So I wanna know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Put it down in the comments below, and next week I will profile one of you. Also, if you want to have more self-confidence and self-belief, I've designed a special free program to help you get it. The science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action to build a habit. So to help you build a habit of self-belief and self-confidence, I've created a special free training where I will email you a video unlisted to your email every day for the next 254 days to shift your confidence forward. The link to sign up for free is in the description below.
Successful people do what they hate to get to where they want to be. Doesn't matter how talented you are, if you don't have self-belief, you're not going to get anywhere. You know, many, many years ago, I was trying to get a book deal, and I'd put on a little talk about how to lose weight, because my book was all about that. And I hadn't sold hardly any tickets, so I cancelled it. And the same day, my agent called me and went, "Oh my gosh, I've got 6 different publishers who want to come to your talk." I'm like, "Well, I've just cancelled it." She went, "Put it back on, quick," because they're all coming. And it was that weekend, and I think she called me on a Thursday night. So on the Friday, I rang all my friends, everyone. I said, "Come to this talk, it's completely free." And I got lots of people to come because I knew that 6 major publishing houses were coming to this talk. And she told me one of them was definitely going to give me a deal, if not all of them. So I only had Friday, and on Friday I could have spent ages planning the talk, but you know, I didn't. I actually made a mood board. I thought that's a good thing. So on Friday night, I had an old picture and I took it out of the frame and I started to stick things in it. And I wrote, "Marisa Peer gets a great book deal." I cut out the Times best-selling list and I stuck it in there and wrote on it, "My book, You Can Be Thin." And I did lots and lots of pictures, like Marisa makes people thin. I went through magazines, I cut stuff out, I wrote some checks out there. I made this mood board really exciting, and I just looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And it made me so excited about my talk. And the next day I went off and I did the talk, and lo and behold, at the end, somebody came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, I love that talk, and we want you to come in on Monday and we're going to offer you a book deal straight away, and we'd really love you not to meet the other 5 publishers because we want you." So that was very exciting. And in fact, I did end up signing with them, and it all was wonderful. But I know it was that mood board that helped me, because it took my mind to where I wanted to be. It made me focus only on success. Of course, a mood board doesn't say things like, "Well, I might not make it." The mood board has success. So let's imagine you want to be a therapist. That's what your vision is, or a photographer. Maybe you want to be a chef. I want you to imagine you've got a mood board and you fill it up with pictures. If you want to be a chef, pictures of great food, reviews from restaurants, and of course you're going to cross out the name of the chef and write your name in instead in black marker pen. So find lots of reviews and put your name in, and then write all over the mood board too. Let's say your name is Alexandra Richardson. You're going to put Alex Richardson instead of that chef, and you're going to put lots of reviews. And let's say you found the top 10 best restaurants, and you're going to call your restaurant the Fox. And so you cross that and you put the Fox, Alex Richardson's restaurant, the Fox, and just keep looking at that. And you write all over your mood board all the things that work for you. People love this restaurant, the best restaurant in wherever you live in the world. The food here is amazing. And then you look at lots of interviews with chefs, and you imagine your interview and you put it up there. You can even mock one up. That's what printers are for. So mock up an interview, mock up everything, and look at that mood board. Mock up all the things that you're going to cook that are going to give you pleasure. Mock up the cookery book you're going to write. Mock up so much stuff. You know, a couple of years ago I was asked to work with probably the angriest kid I've ever worked with in my life. And when we started to work, he said, "You know, no one loves me. I have no love in my life." And I realized that his anger was actually incredible pain, but I talked to him and I asked him what he was good at. He said nothing. So I asked him what he loved, and he said cooking. So we talked about that a bit, and he's ended up being a phenomenally successful chef. He's got a great girlfriend. He went to work for other chefs. He's now got his own restaurant. His life has changed dramatically because I found one thing that he loved and focused on his purpose and the reason he was here. And he loved cooking so much that I knew straight away that that's what he was meant to do. and now he's doing, and his life has changed 360 degrees. Mood boards have been proven over and over again to stimulate your brain, to excite your imagination, to keep your focus on where you want to go. Your mind responds to the pictures and words. The fastest way to change anything is to change the pictures and words. And it's such an easy thing to do. I'm terrified, I'm elated. I'm useless, I'm amazing. I have no memory, my memory is compelling. I can't speak to people. What I have to say is easy. I find it easy to speak to anyone. This is the most vexing rule of the mind for every therapist and coach in the room. It's the one my clients have the hardest time with. Your mind loves what is familiar. If your mind could choose, it would stay with what's familiar and never go to what's unfamiliar. We're in a walled city. And that's interesting because years ago at night they shut the door and we stayed in the wall. We didn't think, do you know, I feel like going for a midnight stroll. I think I'll wander. I'm a bit bored of being in this same old. I want some variety. I think I'll open the gate, wander off and find another tribe. They might have killed you or eaten you. We learned familiar made us safe. Who here notices with their kids when they're little they want the same cup, the same bowl, the same cereal? I took my daughter to Finland to see Santa Claus. She watched Little Mermaid in Finnish the whole time. And that was okay in Finnish because she knew, she'd watched it 110 times. Where I'm like, babe, here's Father Christmas, here's only Mummy. I want to watch The Little Mermaid. It's like, well, next time we'll just stay home and watch a movie then. She did actually get into it, but it made her feel good. She used to play this game. She had so many Barbies, and Ken would come up in his car, and he always picked the same one. He never picked another one to go to the ball because they like familiar. It makes them safe. You know, how many kids you have, they want the same story every night. But familiar also makes us safe. So here's a rule of the mind, and it's a very important rule to put into practice. My mind likes what is familiar, and it doesn't like what's unfamiliar. Okay. But I can make anything negative unfamiliar and anything positive familiar. Let's start with praise. It's the most simple, but the most powerful. I meet clients who are never praised. I met one girl whose dad said, "You're so rubbish, just like your mother. God knows what you've got going. If any man asks you out, snap them up because you are nothing. You're not interesting, you're not attractive, and you get pregnant, you'll blow up just like her and be a big fat mess. So if anyone wants to be with you, I can't imagine why. Take them." And she heard that a lot. So she had this interesting belief, I've got nothing to offer the world. And I did a lot of work with her, and she went out, it was just amazing. It was like magic. This guy came up, and he asked me out, and he was so nice. I mean, he actually made another date, and he picked me up in his car and took me out for dinner, told me I was amazing. I'm never seeing him again. I'm like, really? She went, no, he was too good for me. I'm like, oh, let's change that wording to his behavior was so unfamiliar. I don't recognize praise or niceness or somebody believing I'm worth something, and I want to run back to the familiar guys I have to beg to take me out, or seeing my friends, I pay the bill, and they remind me of my dad. And I'm like, well, guess what? You're not supposed to have sex with your dad. So there's a clue. If someone is like your dad, I don't think you should be getting into bed with them. And I think you need to make that unfair. People like it when you make them laugh. So she went, right. So I said, you need to go out with this guy, and this is what you do. You keep saying, I will make this familiar. He rings me when he says he will. I make it familiar. He texts me. I'll make it familiar. I will make it familiar. And she ended up marrying him. She's very happy. She said, how weird. The other guy called me and said, what happened to me? She went, what, the guy who never called me? You never called me, so I just let you go. So you have to say, let's do it with all of you. How many of you find praise a little unfamiliar? How many of you find praising yourself even more unfamiliar? Okay, so if you're never praised and you're criticized a lot, and criticism is familiar, when someone goes, wow, I love that t-shirt, you go, I got it free, it's got a hole in it, I've had it 8 years. I loved your speech, didn't you notice I missed out the best bit? No, I thought it was amazing. I hear you're the best salesperson in your team. Yeah, but not in my county, there's another guy way better than me. So if praise isn't familiar, you will reject praise, but you'll add in what's familiar, criticism. So one of the best things you can do that will change your life is to make praising yourself familiar and to make criticism unfamiliar. So I've always been in love with the I'm enough, because when you're a therapist, you're always working with what lies beneath these people's problems. It's always the same. I don't feel smart enough, rich enough, good enough. And when you say things like I'm a rock star, mine goes, not really a rock star, because come on, you live in a shared apartment and you've got a car that's 11 years old. You shop in Target, that's not a rock star. I'm a goddess, because you're not really a goddess, because you've got cellulite. But when you say I'm enough, its strength is its simplicity and its honesty. Because you are enough. You're not your weight, your shape, your size, your bank account, your childhood.
Your race,
you're enough. And the thing is, when you say it, and really say it, speak it, and let it in, people pick up your enoughness and believe it. So within that book, you'll see that we get people to change their password so they contain I'm enough. Obviously with some letters and numbers and squiggles, we can't all have I'm enough. It'd be a hacker's dream come true. But you write it all over your mirrors. You put it on your fridge, you put it on your screen. You have your phone alerts go off twice a day. And when you type it out in your passwords, when you write it, read it, say it, think it, it goes in and does the most incredible work, because when you feel enough, you can talk to people. You don't risk rejection because you can't be rejected. You take risks. We'll say, but if I'm enough, don't just lie on the sofa and eat potato chips. No. When you know you're enough, you think, I'm enough, I'm going to build this company, get a raise, get a promotion, release my book. I'm going to invent this thing I've had in my head for years. I'm going to ask that girl or guy out. I'm going to stand up to my kid's teacher, who I think is terrifying me, because they're not terrifying. So I'm enough just opens so many doors and makes you like yourself. Because if you don't like yourself, nothing counts. Nothing you have is enough, and that's what's behind so many people. We think of everything, who become suicidal.
Right.
But I'm enough. Its strength is its simplicity, but also its absolute truthfulness, because everyone's enough. And the minute you know it, the whole world knows it, and they treat you differently. You see, we think, I'll buy a Porsche, and then I'm going to say, look, I'm enough, I've got a Porsche.
Still not.
I'll get an Armani jacket, or I'll get breast implants or lip implants, and then I'm saying I'm enough. But we see lots of people who've got all of that and are desperately, desperately unhappy, because everything you want is because it might make you feel enough. When you can feel enough without the stuff, now you've won. And then you'll get the stuff anyway. But you only get the stuff because you want it, not because you need it to feel enough. Yeah. So if someone said to me, I keep buying all these Jo Malone candles to feel enough, I'm like, but you've got 22. And if they've worked, why would you need 26? You've got 18 pairs of shoes to feel enough. Do you think 19 is going to make any difference? Stuff can't make you feel enough. It's out there. Feeling enough is in here. And when you know you're enough, you can still love a pair of shoes. Believe me, I love a nice pair of shoes. But I never buy them to feel enough, because I'm enough without. You have to understand thoughts are things. When you think a thought, you have an immediate reaction. That's why if you think about eating, your stomach rumbles. You think about sex, you get aroused. People say, I don't believe that. So, well, what do you think an erection is? You think a thought, you get a physical reaction. That's not a one-off. If you think a thought has a physical reaction in your body immediately and an emotional response. If I think I'm embarrassed, I might blush. If you say something moving, my eyes might fill up with tears, because my body is reacting to thoughts. And if we could all be taught that early on, you react to thoughts, that's a fact. Here's another great fact. You can change your thoughts anytime you like. And if you change your thinking, it changes your entire life. So for instance, we're all saying, I'm stuck at home. I go, no, I'm safe at home. Stuck, safe. You change one little word, it changes everything. So when we say, I'm trapped, I'm in a lockdown, you know, we're not actually trapped. They're not sealing up the doors like they did in the plague. In the plague, they sealed your doors and you couldn't physically get out. But we are asked to stay indoors. We still go out for walks, we go out to the store, we go to the pharmacy. We're not stuck, we're not locked in, we're not trapped, we're not in prison. It's not an apocalypse, it's not Armageddon. But if you start to use those words it begins to feel exactly as if it is that case. So it's really important that you change your words. And I learned that when I was helping a hospital who had people who couldn't go in the scanning machine. And they'd all say things like, well, I feel like I'm in a coffin. You know, when I get in that scanner and I can't move, I'm so trapped. I'm like, look, come on. You lie in bed for 8 hours every night and don't move. Why don't you just say, I'm in my bed, I'm super chilled, and I feel so relaxed. And what will happen is your mind will react to your thinking. And so I had many people do that, and I was teaching nurses how to get people to do that, especially little kids of 6 going into the scan. And they said, you know, when we tell them they're in their bed, they actually fall asleep in there. And we say, we're going to play a game now of statues. How long can you keep still for? So when I actually, a few years ago, was in a scanner, which I didn't ever plan to be, and I thought, well, let me play a game here. So I lay in there and I went, I'm in my bed, I'm so chilled, this is so great, I've got half an hour to just lie here. And then I decided to go, I'm in my coffin now. And they started to talk to me, Marisa, you're moving all the time. I had no idea, because I was saying I'm stuck, I'm trapped, I'm claustrophobic. My body was like, get out. And it starts to do things to make you want to leave. And so if you just understand how you are, everything changes. So our ancestral brain is like flee, fight, freeze. I can fight, I can flee, I can freeze. So I'm in a scanner and it's like, well, I need to flee this, I need to fight it. And I'm like, no, if you can't fight and you can't flee, don't freeze, flow. I can't fight, I can't flee, but I can flow. I mean, Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in solitary confinement. We can't even do 3 weeks. We're going, oh, it's hell, it's a nightmare, I'm cooped up, my kids are driving me mad, I want to get a divorce, I can't stand it. But he did 27 years. You know how he did it? Because he said, everyone in my country is in prison. I'm just in a different prison to them. If they can do it, I can do it. And I'm going to come out here the leader of my country. Wow. And he did. So, you know, we have this belief that events affect us. They don't. The meaning you attach to an event affects you. The interpretation you choose about an event is what affects you. So some people are going, I love it, it's great, you know, so much time, I'm having the best. And people go, I hate it, I can't stand it, I'm climbing the walls, I'm going crazy, I'm ripping my hair out. None of which we're not actually ripping out our hair or climbing the walls or going insane. We shouldn't use that. But clearly it must be the interpretation, because we're all reacting differently. So this won't affect you, but what you make of it will. And it's your job to change the interpretation. And if you can change the interpretation, it will change your entire life. Don't focus too much on where you are now, because guess what? Your potential expands as you move towards it. And you know what that means? It means you can never know what your potential is, because as you move towards it, it expands. So you may think, I just want to get a job in a kitchen. I'd love to work in a kitchen cooking. And as you start that, you're going to think, actually, I'd like to be the senior chef in this kitchen. That will move to, I want my own restaurant. I want my own cookery book. I want my own cookery program. There's nothing wrong with any of that. One of my clients just wanted to be a vet. That's all she wanted to be, but she couldn't be a vet because she was asked to leave veterinary school twice, because she dropped out of school before she was fully educated, and they said, no, sorry. She couldn't afford to go back a third time anyway. And she was so depressed about that. I said, look, it isn't black or white. Why do you want to be a vet? She said, I love animals. I just want to work with animals. And so I spoke to her and asked her to consider working in a charity for animals and being an animal trainer. One of my friends, a guy called Jerry Cott, who used to be in the Boomtown Rats, is a fantastic animal trainer. He trains animals for all the different adverts you'll see on television and for movies too. And so I got him to speak to her. And lo and behold, she started off working in a dog and cat rescue shelter. And then she trained to be an animal behavioral expert. And then she got her own show. So her potential went from working in this animal rescue center, being paid to work in an animal rescue center, training to be an animal behavioral expert, writing a book and getting my own television show. That was extraordinary. All because that was what her heart wanted to do. That's all she ever wanted to do. And as she's doing it, you know what? She's happier and worth more financially than she'd ever been a vet. If she'd been a vet, she'd be happy. Doing what she's done has made her ecstatic and financially more successful, happier in every way possible. So keep thinking about your goals. Use that mood board, and remember, your potential expands as you move towards it. Where you are now, it doesn't matter. You have no idea what your potential is, because it's going to move as you move towards it. Here's some things I want you to start doing today, right now, that will build your self-esteem super fast. The number one thing is to praise yourself. There is nothing that will build your self-esteem like praise, but your praise is if you have a shop assistant who says, oh, you look really great in the outfit. Yeah, it suits you, you must buy it. They have an agenda. If your boss says you're amazing at your job, but I need to give you work to do over the weekend, they have an agenda. Someone dating you might have an agenda, and your mind knows it. But when you say, I'm great at my job, I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm nice, people like me, there is no agenda. Unfortunately, when you go, I'm rubbish at my job, I'm boring, I always mess up and I have no friends, your mind lets that into, because your mind doesn't really care if what you say is right or wrong, good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. Let me prove that to you. I want you to put your hand in front of your face like that. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine you have a big, fat, juicy lemon. And I want you to breathe in that wonderful lemon smell and just squeeze it a bit and feel that wonderful lemon texture, because nothing quite smells like a lemon. So still really believing you have half a lemon in your hand, open your mouth, shove that lemon in there, cram that half a lemon into your mouth and start chewing and sucking and biting and swallowing the flesh. Keep sucking all that lemon flesh into your mouth. Bite it, chew it, suck out the juice. And you will notice that what is happening is your body is responding to a thought as if it's a fact. Your body is responding to the image and thought of eating a lemon as if you are actually eating a lemon, and it's making a saliva, because thoughts are things. And every thought you have has a physical reaction in your body and an emotional response to. When you think, I don't have friends, I can't talk to people, I can't take things back to a store, I can't ask for special treatment, I don't know how to talk to people, then your mind accepts that as a fact, just like the lemon. But when you say, oh, I can talk to anyone, I'm an interesting person, I'm warm and friendly, people like me, and I can make eye contact, I'm good at my job, I can ask someone out on a date, I can tell the person I'm involved with what I need, your mind accepts that too. And someone recently said they keep a lemon on their desk now and look at it every day. I'm sure they change it every month, because that lemon reminds them every day that they are responsible for what they think and feel. And you know, responsibility, that word means an ability to respond. And people think the brain is really complicated. It's not. It's actually quite simple. You only need to know 3 things about your brain to always get what you want. And the first thing is, your brain does exactly what it thinks you want it to do, because it listens to everything you say. So when you say things like, oh God, you know, it was so painful, I never want to go through that again, all your mind can pick up is you don't want to be in a relationship again. When people have a miscarriage and go, I could never go through that again, I'd rather die than go through that again, your mind is picking up, oh right, well that's a statement, that's actually a command to me to make sure you never go through a miscarriage again. And that's how you get unexplained infertility, which is something else I've been working on a lot recently. Because the mind listens to what you say. So people go, oh, I went on this flight, I thought I was going to die. And do it, they go, I'm never getting on a plane. If this plane lands, I will never, ever get on a plane again. And of course it lands, they go, oh, it was just turbulence. But next time they go to the airport, they have a massive panic attack, because your mind's like, hang on a minute, you said I never want to fly again. And so if you haven't got what you want, it's because you're giving your mind very confusing messages. Your mind's number one job is to listen to what you say and to act on it. Its second job is to move you towards pleasure and away from pain. And it will always, always, always do more to avoid pain. So let's imagine you've gone for an interview, you've done a public speech thing like me, and you've stood up and you've gone, and you think, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. And you'd have a terrible presentation. And one of my clients who worked for Sony was saying that she had to stand up and just say to Sony, this is a new band from Camden. And she stood up and went, this is a new band from, and they're called, she said, I couldn't do it. It was the simplest thing. And my boss had to take over. And I was explaining to her that when you do that and go, oh my God, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this again. Your mind is now going to make sure you don't do it again. So the next time you go to speak, it will give you a panic attack. It will make you ill. And if you say to yourself, oh my God, I'd love a week off in bed, or I'm dreading next Wednesday, your mind is so in tune with you. Your week off in bed, you wake up with the flu, and your mind's like, there you go. How cool am I? There's your week in bed. You don't want to go to that speech? I've woken you up with diarrhea, so now you can't go. That's what the mind does. When I was giving my first ever presentation about my first ever book, I woke up with the most excruciating migraine. I've never had one before. I thought, wow, I must have been saying to myself somewhere, I don't want to do this because I've got this migraine. And I actually went and did it, and I didn't have the migraine until I stepped back off the stage again. And I realized that I was communicating very badly with myself. So you must never say nervous, say excited, because your mind listens. So those three things are, your mind does what it really thinks you want to do. If you're very, very specific and say, I want this and this, I want to be a great speaker, I want to deliver things, I want to be fantastic at sales, I want to be able to look people in the eye and sell them things and come across as really authentic, your mind will understand. And if you make those pictures really good and pleasant, you'll move towards them. Your mind tries to move you towards pain, away from pain and towards pleasure too. Very. I mean, so many kids are going, I want to ask out this girl, I want to talk to that boy, but I'm so nervous they won't like me and they're going to reject me and laugh at me. And if they keep doing that, the mind's going to go, no, don't go there, stay the way you are. So you have to say, people like me. I'm a great kid. I get all my young kids to write on their mirror, I'm an awesome kid, I'm enough. And it really changes them because they start to feel it. I'm an awesome kid. I can talk to a girl like I can talk to my friend. And then they feel okay. But if you keep linking pain to them, your mind goes, don't go there. Don't go there. And if you link pleasure to it, you go there because you're giving your mind an easy job. I've got to work on my website all weekend, and all my friends are in the bar, so I can link pain to that. It's not fair. It's not fair that I've got to spend all weekend writing when I could be in the pub. Now your mind's going to go, I think you should tidy up your sock drawer, make sure all your forks face the right way, then plump up the cushions, and then go to the pub. Because it's very clear you do not want to work on your website, but oh boy, getting those forks and knives in line is really compelling. Who's done that? Most of us do that. I suddenly need to do the laundry, which I don't even like. I'm tidying up my house because I'm saying I don't want to write that bit of work. How about saying it thrills me to work on my website? I'm elated working on my website. There is nowhere I'd rather be in the whole world right now than sitting in my office working on my website. Your mind goes, I'm going to set you on fire now. You're going to be doing this till 2 a.m. You told me you love it and it thrills you. Let me fill you up with energy and passion. I'm a writer. I know how this works. I never go, oh my God, I've got to write a book. It's so lonely. It's so isolating. And what if no one likes it? What if it goes on Amazon? They go, I hate that book. And it gets no stars. Or I can go, I love writing. How cool is it? I get to write and people pay for my books and they like them and they give me great reviews because there's the choice going on again. So whatever you want, you must link massive pleasure to what you want. And you can link pain to what you don't want. But I don't bother to do that. Let's think of all the pain. Your book's never published. You go into your coffin. It's still in a drawer. You don't have to do that. Just focus on the pleasure bit. Everyone's good at something. You know, you're not meant to be good at everything. It's no good being a jack of all trades and a master of none. So be really good at what you're good at and don't worry about what you're not good at because we're not all supposed to be good at the same thing. find your talent, find out what you love to do. What you're meant to do lies directly behind and is absolutely linked to what you love to do. When I was a kid, actually, I loved writing little stories and illustrating them, and it's funny that now I am a very successful writer because I was always writing when I was a kid, but I never considered that as a career, but it kind of found me later. My daughter was always drawing and always, in fact, she went to college to be a criminologist and then gave that up and became an artist because it's what she was meant to do. So find out what you love and be brilliant at it and believe in yourself.
Everything you tell it great things. Don't use wishy-washy, I hope, I try, maybe, who knows. I had a partner years ago who was very ill, and I took him to see a doctor, and the doctor got out the notes and went, I'll try to make you better. I do the very best. I said, this is not the doctor for you. He's like, look, this is my illness. I'm like, I know, but I'm a therapist. We have to interfere. It's our job. It's our calling. So you cannot go to an oncologist that says, I will try, and I hope this works, and if it doesn't, we'll try something else, because it's filling your mind up with nothing. So I'm very lucky. I'm in the book in London for the best doctors in England. I'm not a doctor, I'm a therapist, but they very nicely put me in there. Very happy about that, because I can speak to all the other doctors. So I said to some doctors, who is the best one? They went, Roger Kirby, without a second's hesitation. So I called Kirby and said, look, we're in the same book. I have this friend with cancer. He said, oh, that's my area of excellence, bring him in. I brought him in. And when he said to him what he had, he went, well, I happen to be the best oncologist in Europe for your problem, and I will fix it, you'll be fine, you'll still be here when you're 75. Which one do you think he liked? And he did say, well, I've already got someone. He went, who is it? He went, oh, I trained him, he's not as good as me. He went, right, I'm going to the teacher, not the student. Because the words, I am the best, I know what to do, you're in good hands, I will save you, I will cure you. We're allowed to say that in the UK. I will make you better. Very different to, well, I'll try. We have this new drug, it could work. If it doesn't, there's something else. We can only hope. I mean, that puts fear, we can only hope. Let's try. Don't do that. This is amazing. This is awesome. This is phenomenal. I use the same words all the time when I'm teaching my students, my RTT grads. What I do. You are elated, you're empowered, you are thrilled, you're delighted. This is awesome, this is amazing. When I make clients go, I love the words. Where did you get those words? I'm like, well, I find the most negative ones and I flip them over. I'm useless, I'm spectacular, I'm terrified, I'm delighted. And by the way, fear and excitement are exactly the same. You can be on a fun fair screaming your head off and going, oh, look at that wheel. Are they scared or excited? I don't know. Do you? Because it's the same. When you're excited, you scream. And when you're scared, you scream. So whatever you're doing, say, I'm excited. And you'll feel excited. Or go, I'm terrified. And you'll feel terrified.
When there is a battle between logic and emotion, emotion always wins. How many of you have gone to a really high building, an enclosed building like the top story of a hotel or the CN Tower in Toronto, and looked down and thought, oh, wow, I feel really scared. My logic mind knows that I'm safe, that the glass is that thick, that I can't fall, but the emotion that's making my stomach lurch is winning. So when you have a battle between emotion and logic, emotion always wins. Here's something you all know. We can all ring our friend up and go, I'm a bit bored, a bit lonely. Can I hang out? Or I'm a bit bored, let's go to the movie. You would never ring someone you've just met and go, I'm bored and lonely, will you come and hang out with me? Let's go to the movie. Because the emotion that you might be rejected will overrule the logic that says this person may be the person for me. So if you're having a battle between yourself, here's a great one. I know I shouldn't eat cake. That's the logic, but the emotion is, oh, the cake feels so good and this creamy, sugary stuff reminds me of being a baby when all my needs were met by having creamy, sugary stuff. So in a battle between emotion and logic, logic will never win, emotion will always win. And you can make that win for you by making it a better emotion. So here's how to do it. Here's an emotion. I'm scared to ask for a pay rise in case my boss laughs me out of the office. Make it a stronger emotion. If I go to my boss and show them what I've done, how valuable I am, that won't happen. Here's an emotion. I really want to ask that person on a date, I'm not good enough. Change the emotion. I'm wonderful, I'm amazing. What could I get from asking someone on a date that says yes? So much. And if they say no, I'm only exactly where I was before, except I've been brave. I've done something courageous. I've taken action. Even if it doesn't work out, I've lost nothing, but I've gained courage. So when you're having a battle between logic and emotion, emotion always wins, logic never wins. That's why you could stand on the windowsill of your apartment if it was on the ground floor, but you would never stand on the windowsill same size if it was 100 stories up, because the emotion that you may fall will defeat the logic that says, I can do this when it's a few feet off the ground. Why can't I do it up here? Because emotion overrules logic. In my experience, people who try to be perfect are the unhappiest people in the world, and they're almost always the loneliest too. When you try to be perfect, you have entered a race that you can't win. You can't even complete it. There is no finishing line. The finishing line keeps moving. So when you're in a race to be thinner, happier, richer, more successful, you can't complete that race. You can't win it. And instead of thinking, oh, I'm reaching my goals, you feel intense dissatisfaction. Here's the truth. The way you feel about everything is down to the pictures you make in your head and the words you say to yourself. And guess what is so great? You can change those pictures anytime. You can change those words. Every thought you think, every word you say becomes a blueprint that your mind, body, and psyche use everything at their disposal to make real. Thoughts are things. What you speak and think and say without realizing your mind is working so hard to make that your reality, even if it's super negative. You know, I see parents all the time who say things like, I'll be happy when my kid sleeps through the night. I'll be happy when my kid's out of diapers. I'll be happy when my kid is walking, feeding themselves, going to school. And they spend their whole child's life looking at the next bit to be happy, when you should be thinking, wow, I wish every stage took 3 times as long. You waste your amazing life wishing it away for the next bit. Because happiness is not a destination you arrive at, it's the journey you're on. It's an inside job. Do not farm out, I'll be happy when, because there is no terminal to get to called happiness. Happiness is the journey you're on now. Perfectionists come in all shapes and sizes, and they're often very good at hiding their inner drive to be perfect. There's one thing that drives them all, an inner belief that says, I'm not enough. I'm less than. If I'm less than and I can come across as perfect, I'll be more than. You know, my neighbors always say to me, wow, you have so many famous clients. Are they damaged by fame? I'm like, no, actually no. Damaged people are attracted to fame. They have a belief I'm so damaged, but if I'm famous, rich, gorgeous, amazing, I'll be perfect. But you see what happens when damaged people try to be perfect? It actually damages them more. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to be infallible. You just need to be enough. And when you let the fact in that you are enough, instead of trying so hard to be perfect, which you can never achieve, when you let in being enough, changes your life. So let it in that you're enough right now, because that's the truth about you.
In powerful language, you can never say you're going to fall, you're going to mess that up, you're going to ruin everything. That's just not going to work out. You have to say the opposite. Okay, I've only got 10 minutes to prepare my speech. I only need 10 minutes. I've only got 10 minutes to get there. That's exactly how much time I need. And if I'm late, I wasn't supposed to be there on time. I have a belief now, when I get to a party late, it's because I wasn't meant to get there early. I no longer go, oh my God, I'm so late. This is going to be terrible. In fact, I was recently going in a cab across town to get a train to work with a football team. And we got stuck in traffic. And so I was playing a game. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss the train. This is terrible. I'm going to ruin my reputation. The team are going to be so upset. And I felt really sick. And then I started to say, the trains run every 20 minutes. It doesn't matter. What's 20 minutes? My material's so great. They have lots of time. After all, they finished practicing at 3 o'clock. And it was fine. So all the way there, I was playing a game, and I actually got the train on time, but they really wouldn't have minded. But I could have ruined my day, made myself panicky and sweaty by going, oh my God, I haven't got enough time, and now it's all ruined. And it's never ruined. You can come back from anything. And then I worked with a client who had cancer and had to go into this MRI scanner. And every time I saw him, he said, I can't do it. I can't get in that scanner. And he said, well, I feel like I'm in my coffin. I feel like it's a premonition of my death. And I get in the scanner, I think, well, I've got cancer and I'm going to die. And I said, well, I freak out. I press the button, I have to come out. And they keep saying, look, you've got to, I can't even be in there for 2 seconds, which is not true. When people say, I can't do it for even a second, he probably was in there for a few minutes. I said, look, the words you say to yourself in that scanner, this is a premonition of my death. I feel like I'm in a coffin. I feel like I'm suffocating and I can't do it. That's a blueprint. And your mind doesn't like those words. So how about these words? How about saying, I'm in my bed at home and I'm just so chilled and I could lie here for hours. I'm chilled, I'm relaxed, I'm blissed out. You must use words that make a picture. You can't go, oh, I'm okay really. I'm quite good, I'm not bad, this is okay. Because when I say the words okay, not bad, where's the picture? There's no picture. It's what I call fluff. When you say I'm chilled, I'm blissed out, I'm ecstatic, I'm just lying here and I could do this for hours, it's just so cool, the mind goes, you're right. And when you go, I'm in a coffin and I'm suffocating, the mind goes, you're right. See, here's the great thing. You can choose any words you like. You can go, well, we're all going to be negative, and this half's going to be positive. That's your choice. You know what you can't choose? What you do to yourself when you say, I'm an idiot, I'm a moron, I'm a retard, I've got rocks for brains, everything goes wrong. Who would ever like me? I've got cellulite, I'm a single parent, I've got no chance. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't go to college, so I couldn't possibly do what you do. I got kicked out of college, by the way, so you can definitely do what I do. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I can look at my life and say being fired, being dumped, and being kicked out of college, thank you, God, for putting that in up to me, because it changed my life. It was the best thing. Rejection has been one of the best things that ever happened to me. Being the least favorite kid, if I could have my life again, I'd go back and be the least favorite kid, because I thought, I'm going to show my parents that I'm something. And if I was the favorite, I wouldn't have done that. I would have had a totally different life.
I really want to be successful, but I'd love to be healthier, but I want to find love, but I can't get pregnant because... And the first thing we do is investigate, like a good detective. A detective will lay out pictures and go, what's going on here? And they make sense of it. And very much the same. So when people come to me and go, no, I've got unexplained infertility. What is that? I went, well, there's a clue in the description. It is unexplained. Nobody knows. Your husband's got cracked sperm that swims straight and plenty of it. You've got great eggs, great fallopian tubes, perfect womb. But you can't get pregnant because the unexplained is here. And many people, when they're younger, will say things, if I got pregnant, my dad would kill me. Oh my God, if I got pregnant, it would be the end of the world. And I mean, when I was 17 thinking I was pregnant, thinking, oh my God, no, disaster. Oh my God, my dad will be so upset, devastated. When I wasn't, I went, oh, thank you, God. Oh, yes, joy. But you see, the mind listens to everything you say. The mind is always switched on and it records everything. And it never forgets. So in a moment of absolute terror or fear or pain or anxiety, there's something called an imprint. It goes in. So a child whose mother says, that cat will scratch you and give you blood poisoning, or that dog's going to bite you, or that's a dangerous person, or You know, I worked with a little kid who had a terrible fear of monsters under the bed. Turned out his dad used to always say, you'll get run over if you do that. You'll kill yourself if you do that. You'll drown if you do that. Turned out his dad was the monster because he was scaring him all the time. So you get a young person, can be an adult, and you get an imprint. And what we do is investigate where did this imprint happen? And when we've got the imprint, which is very easy, you can ask questions and get the imprint. You can listen to the client's story. The one who said, my mum used to cry when I brought up food and was so happy when I ate. Or you can use hypnosis and go back like that. And the reason I love hypnosis so much is you go to the imprint. You know, people come to see me, within 5 minutes they have the imprint. There's no, oh, how does that make you feel? And how do you feel now? And let's talk more about that. And come back next Wednesday at 4 and we'll keep this going, because studies now say that's actually the worst thing you can do, because you just keep the story alive. So we do the investigating, we find the imprint, and then we interpret it. What does that mean? Why do you think, you know, your dad telling all these stories would now leave you to have this monster under your bed? Why do you think at 15 being terrified of being pregnant could possibly mean that today you've got unexplained infertility? And they work it out. They go, yeah, now you say that. If I look at those scenes and look at this scene, it all makes sense. And then you interrupt the belief massively, and then you install a brand new belief. You know, you're getting pregnant like a high school kid on their first date. You're super fertile. You've got cracked grade A eggs. Your husband's got the SAS of sperm, and going to collide. So you bring in the very powerful language, and you are going to make a grade A baby. Because of course people say, I want to be pregnant. I'm like, no, you don't. You want to make a baby that you carry to full term. I have clients who have been pregnant 8 times. You want a perfect, bouncing, healthy baby. So it's another example of not telling your mind what you want. So the combination of the imprint, the investigate, the interpret, the interrupt, and the install is so powerfully transformational. Your brain is actually quite smart, and it usually gives you a phobia because it thinks it's in your best interest to have it. Now I know that sounds kind of crazy, but the mind works like this. It always does what it really thinks is in your very, very best interest. If you have a phobia and you haven't managed to get rid of it, that's because your mind believes that somehow it's helping you. So here's the thing, if you go to the top of a very tall building and run to the window and look out, your stomach will drop and your mind will go, get away from the edge, you crazy fool, because millions of years after evolution, our brain still thinks if we stand right at the top of a high building, it should make us feel slightly sick. So we pull back, and now it's saved us, because that's our mind's job, keep you safe on the planet. So I totally understand the fear of heights, and you can't fight that stuff. Vertigo is there for a reason, but you can rationalize with the mind. You can turn it down. You can say, I'm safe. Look, there's a window this thick. I'm going to stay here and breathe and keep saying, I'm safe, I'm safe. And then the vertigo will go away, because your mind is doing its job. Get you away from the ledge. And when you dialogue with your mind to go, it's not a ledge, it's a plate glass window and I'm safe, it will go, oh okay, don't need to do my job. Here's another phobia. It is probably the most common phobia in the world, the fear of speaking in public. But you know that's not the fear. It's a fear of being rejected. I work with so many people. I've worked with people who said, you know, I can't even go to my own wedding. I've had to cancel the wedding because I can't walk down the aisle. I've had grooms who fainted at their wedding rehearsal about giving the speech. I had someone who had to speak at a funeral. She said, you know what? I'd actually rather be in the coffin right now than give that speech because I am terrified. But they're not terrified of speaking in public. They are terrified of being rejected. And that's, again, as far as your brain's concerned, that's kind of smart, because here's the thing. We come onto the planet with 2 needs. Find connection, avoid rejection. Imagine you can go back a few thousand years and you're born in a tribe, and that tribe rejects you and they don't like you and they cast you out. You're not even going to make it. You can't live because you can't hunt and protect yourself alone. And so that's why we have a fear of rejection, because our mind believes I must be accepted, I must be connected, and then I'll live a long time. And of course you and I know that we could go and live in a little bedsit with a cat and live to 102, get all our groceries delivered, and we don't die of rejection anymore. But our brain really hasn't caught up. So when people have phobias of public speaking, which is nothing more than a phobia of being rejected, the way to deal with that is to say that I cannot be rejected. Nobody can reject me without my permission. They can say mean things. They can be really mean, but you always get to choose whether you let it in or not. So the first thing that people who are incredibly successful do is they do what they hate. They are fully prepared to do what they hate to get to where they want to be. And people who fail, they will give up their dream before they do what they hate to do. And people who are very successful, they never, ever, ever wait for motivation. They do it because when you do it, you become motivated. A great writer won't go, well, I'll just wait till I'm really motivated to start writing this book. No, they get up at 4 in the morning, they don't want to, and they start to write, and then of course they become motivated. So you wake up in the morning and you go, you're not going to go, yay, it's 5 a.m, I'm putting on my running shoes and going for a walk up Laurel Canyon. Of course you're not going to do that. You're going to wake up and go, God, I really hate working out. But Marisa said, successful people do what they hate to get to where they want to be. Because of course the wonderful thing is that when you do what you hate first enough times, it starts to become natural. Like, I've got to do my taxes, I'll do that first thing. I've got to confront someone, I'll do it first. And so I still to this day wake up and think, oh, I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to do it first, because what I do want is to belong to that group of very, very successful people. So I know what the membership is. And every time I don't want to do something, I think, I don't want to do it, but what I do want is to belong to that group, so I'm doing it first. And it's a great way of thinking, because it starts to move you around wanting to do it for all the right reasons. Many, many years ago, I met someone who wanted to be a rock star. That was his ambition. He actually particularly wanted to be a drummer. And he was a very young married man with 2 children to support. And he was going for a lot of auditions, and of course all the auditions take place during the day, and every time he had a job they wouldn't let him take time off. So he decided he would have to work nights in order to audition during the day. And the only job he could get was a job he hated. He was a taxi driver and he hated it, but he did it. But he just wasn't making enough money, so he thought, okay, I'll have to work in McDonald's. I get more money, I can work nights, I'm free to audition. And about a month before he'd applied to work in McDonald's, he'd been for an audition to be a drummer in a band. He didn't even know who the band was. And the day he was due to start working at McDonald's, which he absolutely hated even the thought of, he got a call to go, you know that band you auditioned for, it's actually Simple Minds, and now you're the drummer in Simple Minds. So he never worked in McDonald's or drove a cab again for the rest of his life. But when he told people that story, they'd all go, oh, I would never work in McDonald's. Oh my God, I'd never degrade myself by driving a cab around London. And I'm like, don't you think you're missing the point? His ability to do what he hated is what made him a rock star, because he had to have his days free to rehearse and audition. But if he had your mindset, I'd never do that, he would never be a multi-millionaire rock star. It was because he was fully prepared to do what he hated, to swallow his pride, to keep his vision in mind. I want to be a rock star. I must be free for auditions. How can I do that? Well, I have to work as a cab driver and in a fast food restaurant, which I hate, but I'm going to do it because it's going to take me to my goal. And it did. But the people who laughed at him and said, I wouldn't do that, none of them are rock stars.
What do you think is your greatest challenge that you face internally, personal challenge, as someone who's helped thousands, tens of thousands of people personally,
my
and understand all this stuff?
Yeah, I suppose it's not a challenge to get more people to understand it, because people need it. You know, we all need to be nourished. You know, we need nourishment. Our soul needs to be nourished. It's not about organic avocados from Erewhon Market. That's great, but we all need this emotional nourishment. So, is it a challenge getting more people to accept it? I think it is, because everyone I see go, oh my God, I love that. And some people go, you know, I listen to you, thought, oh, that's rubbish. But then I found myself going into the garage and saying nice stuff to myself. So maybe my only challenge, but even then it's not a challenge, is I would say half the medical profession love what I do and really go for it and go, oh my God, this is amazing, I'm using it with my own patients. The other half go, this is all silly. You know, illness is caused by disease, that you can't talk yourself better. Talking to yourself doesn't make any difference. You can't possibly give birth just using positive affirmations. It's like if you had cancer and you had a very good oncologist, you might go, look, you know, the way you think, the way you eat, the way you act, the way you rest can all affect. And they'll go, nope, you got cancer, chemotherapy, there's nothing else that will work. And all that stuff is hocus pocus. Right. So that is a challenge, but it's not so much, because I find so many doctors love what I do and go, wow, you know, all these illnesses are autoimmune illnesses. Many years ago, there was a wonderful psychiatrist in London called Dr. Maudsley, and he had a great expression, it's always been my favorite, and it says, the feeling that cannot find its expression in tears may cause other organs to weep. So he knew 100 years ago.
That's beautiful.
So beautiful and so true.
The feeling that
cannot find its expression in tears will cause other organs to weep. So he's sort of saying, if you don't feel the feeling, your body's going to feel it. If you don't open your mouth and say, you hurt me, don't be surprised if you get a screaming. I've got this screaming headache. I've got this angry red rash. I've got this thumping pain. And by the words they're using, angry, screaming, they're saying, I have rage that can't come out. I'm not expressing
it, but it's expressed through my body.
Yeah, because the body is very clever at finding something. I worked with someone who couldn't walk, and all she was, I can't stand that. I can't stand my ex, I can't stand my life, I can't stand my kids, and you can't stand up. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, wow.
She had sort of phantom leg pains because she couldn't stand anything. Believe me, it was also, well, what makes me sick is my sister-in-law. Oh, I'm so sick of her. She just makes me sick. I vomit in my mouth every time I hear her voice, and then they wonder why they're bulimic.
Right.
Because our words really affect our reality, partly because, and it's such an easy thing to say, every word you say is a blueprint that your mind, body, and psyche are working to make your reality. So we make our thoughts, and our thoughts make us, then we go out into the world and we justify our thoughts every day. But our words are a blueprint, and when you know that, you think, well, I better pay attention to that blueprint. I better not say this kid is killing me. My job is making me want to die. I'm so stressed out by what? The queue in Hughes Market. Well, go to Zimbabwe where there is no Hughes Market, right, and there is no queue, and there's no money to buy food anyway. Then you can say you're stressed, because your problem, the queue in Erewhon and the bill, is someone else's fantasy dream come true. This freeway is killing you. You have a car. You have look at people on 4 buses. I used to take my daughter to school, and I remember one day thinking that, oh my God, this commute is hell. And I saw someone at a bus and thought, how lucky I'm in my car. I've got the heating, I've got a cup of tea, I've got an hour to listen to something. I can talk to my kid. I keep saying I want an hour to myself. Well, here it is. And I learned to stop doing that. But when you say, how are you? Oh, nightmare. It is torture. What? The traffic. Yeah, the traffic, the queue. People keep ringing me, the phone ringing. It's torture. Well, maybe if it didn't ring, that might be worse. Some of my clients who are models will say, my life is hell because people look at me. It's like, really? Well, one day they won't, and then you might miss it. Yeah, but I get on a plane and guys hit on me, it's a nightmare. Well, put on a baseball hat and glasses, read a book. Over yourself, then they'll leave you alone. But that's not a nightmare, it's just mildly inconvenient. It's not hell.
Right.
It's not killing you, but we use these incredible words. This is torture, this is killing me, this is a disaster. What is? Well, I went to the bathroom and I forgot to pause my movie. Well, that's not a disaster. But when you use those words, because your mind can't differentiate, just to feel like it really is a disaster.
If you want another amazing Marisa Peer video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
We tell ourselves the story. We play the only part we've ever known. And then that part becomes our own, and we don't know how to separate it.